Ladies and gentlemen, Staten Island is about to become a pain in the butt for Comrade Mamdani. They say it's the forgotten borough of New York City. People always talk about Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, but never Staten Island. When I think of Staten Island, what comes to my head first is, hey, I'm walking here. It's the most New York part of New York. Can't we just take New York from Zohran Mamdani and these commie-crats and just give it back to the Italian mob? Like Don Corleone, we could just make him an offer he can't refuse. Look how they massacred my boy. You spent time with your family? Good. Because a man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man. I think we need Mayor Al Pacino. Anyways, elected officials in Staten Island are channeling their inner Moses. They're saying, let our people go. They don't want to be part of Zohran Mamdani's communist utopia. They are reintroducing legislation for Staten Island to secede from what they fear will become the People's Republic of Mamdani. The Democratic Socialist could not be further out of sync with the values of communities on Staten Island. And I'd argue that this time around, Democrats don't want to stop the Boroughs' secession because it would make it even less likely New York City ever elects a Republican mayor again. That's a very good point. Staten Island is the most Republican borough in New York City. Democrats see it as a massive obstacle to their agenda. It's the only part of New York holding them accountable. Representative Lanza from Staten Island has been pushing his secession bill since 2008, and it's seen little traction. But the rest of the Big Apple has swung so far left that there could be common ground, even among Democrats, to separate the four other boroughs from Staten Island's predominantly moderate and GOP voting base. I think the timing is right, and it would be great not only for Staten Island, but for the city of New York. So Sam Pirozzolo and Lanza held a rally on Richmond Road on Friday, which symbolically on July 9th, 1776 was where the Declaration of Independence was first read on Staten Island to British soldiers. That's Sam Pirozzolo, the state assemblyman of Staten Island, reading that Declaration of Independence. We, the citizens of Staten Island, declare, when in the course of civic events it becomes necessary for one borough to dissolve the political bonds which have connected it with a distant and unresponsive government, we should declare the causes which impel us to seek separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that Staten Islanders are free citizens, entitled to representation, fairness, and respect, that when a government becomes destructive of those ends, it is the inalienable right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute a new government deriving its powers from the consent of the governed. For too long, the people of Staten Island have endured neglect and inequity at the hands of New York City's leadership. Our taxes are collected eagerly, yet our roads crumble, our ferries falter, and our small businesses suffocate under regulations written for other boroughs. We are taxed as if we were Manhattan, but treated as if we were expendable. We will not be taxed because of who we are, and we will no longer be ignored because of where we live. City Hall, instead of serving all five boroughs equally, has capitulated to the growing influence of socialist ideologies who seek to reshape New York into a laboratory for their failed political experiments. They promote policies that demonize law enforcement, crush working-class homeowners, and drain opportunity from communities that value hard work and independence. The city no longer represents a balance of voices. It represents an ideology that punishes dissent and rewards extremism. We have petitioned time and again for fairness, for reliable transportation, for safe streets, and for our local voices to be heard. Our pleas have been ignored, our votes diluted, and our character dismissed. Staten Island has spoken clearly in elections, referenda, and civic debates, yet the government's ruling class treats us as an obstacle to their agenda. The 1998 referendum showed the will of Staten Islanders to govern ourselves, but that will was denied by a system designed to silence us. It has become clear that our continued union with New York City no longer serves liberty, justice, or reason. Therefore, we, the people of Staten Island, appealing to the good sense of our fellow New Yorkers and the justice of our cause, solemnly declare that the Bureau of Staten Island ought to be a free and self-governing entity. We seek not division for its own sake, but independence to preserve our values of faith, family, safety, and self-determination against a city that has surrendered them to socialism. With firm reliance on our Creator and on each other, we mutually pledge our commitment to build a Staten Island that reflects the will of its people, strong, sovereign, and free. That's an awesome Declaration of Independence. Wonder where they got the inspiration from. Here you have people signing the petition. Everyone in Staten Island wants to be free. Andrew Lanza said he plans to put the foot to the pedal on the bill in January. His legislation would not require approval from the New York City Council or a citywide referendum, though he said he would welcome letting Staten Islanders vote again on the issue. He says, "We are not declaring war on Manhattan or the rest of New York City, but elections should have some consequences." Staten Island has been wanting independence since the 40s. The closest they came was in 1993, when voters overwhelmingly backed a non-binding secession referendum by 65%. It was the New York Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver who refused to advance the required home rule message from the city council. Staten Island has 500,000 residents. It's New York's smallest borough, but as an independent city, it would become the second largest municipality in the state. It would have a higher population than Miami, Florida, Tampa, Florida, Oakland, California, and Cleveland, Ohio. New York City Councilman Frank Morano is drafting legislation directing the city to study the economic impact of Staten Island becoming an independent municipality. He estimated that 60% of his constituents support secession, but said he worries that a breakup could lead to higher taxes if the Bureau must create its own police, fire, and education departments. Yeah, but it's a price worth paying. Plus, I think the federal government would be fully behind this. At the same time, I completely understand why so many people feel taken for granted by the rest of the city and want out. This bill is meant to be a balanced approach. Morano said he ultimately wants voters to have the final word. Staten Island should be able to decide its own fate. It's the most frustrating thing in the world for Staten Islanders to vote for elected officials, vote for certain policies, and no matter how we vote, we are dismissed by policymakers by the rest of the city. The process is pretty simple for Staten Island. Step 1 is already complete, which is building grassroots support and introducing legislation. Then the New York legislature authorizes a feasibility study, and that's actually feasible. New York City Democrats would love to have complete control of the city. They probably wouldn't hold Staten Island back. Then Staten Island voters will hold a non-binding referendum. Then the state legislature would approve the charter. Then it's just about implementation at that point. Ah, man. Free Staten Island. From the river to the sea, they deserve to be free. I sincerely want this to happen. A free Staten Island would be safe, would have better schools, businesses would move there, and Zohran Mamdani's New York will be broke. Schools will be down in the gutter. Taxes will be through the roof. It'll just be the biggest difference ever. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to see that. Not only that, if they leave New York City, Mamdani's probably going to be begging his voters for money again. I'm always optimistic, so I can see this happening, but what do you guys think? Thank you all very much for watching. God bless and goodbye.